My mom's best friend was driving home from work one night when she got pulled over from a police officer. She had no idea why, but figured it could be a taillight or something. So she pulled over when the officer approached. He confirmed to her that her taillight was out and asked for license and registration. So she gave it to him and disappeared to his car for a while. Later, when he came back, he started asking her weirder and weirder questions. They started regularly. Where are you going? Where did you come from? But then they started getting personal. Do you have a husband at home? Any children? Any weapons? Any daughters? Any aggressive pets? Once he started getting concerningly personal, she told him that it was inappropriate to be asking these questions. Then he started getting aggressive. Now I'm a fucking cop. Do you know what that means? It means you just shut the fuck up and do what I say. Step out of the car. Obviously, she was pretty scared at this point. She rolled up the window and started looking through her purse for her phone. At this point, the officer was just straight up violent. He was pounding on her window, trying to open the door while yelling crazy shit. Get out of the fucking car, you bitch! You dirty fucking slut! I said out! So, in full-blown panic, she stepped on the gas and drove away. A chase occurred for a short while, but the cop quickly stopped following her as she got closer to the main road. She then called 911 when she learned that there was no officers that were supposed to be in that location. In the coming days, it turned out that there was a rapist who was posing as a cop in that area. She never even had a broken taillight, but he had her address, her personal info, and he even knew about her husband and daughter. She told him she didn't own a weapon, so she immediately purchased a pistol. Unfortunately, she was forced to live in fear for a while until they caught the man. This happened a few years ago when I was bartending in college. I was coming home down the stretch of the divided highway at around 3 a.m. when I noticed a car heading towards me in the wrong lane. I doubted myself at first and thought the car was on the other side of the highway. Sure enough, the white Ford sedan passed me at a really high speed, at least 90 miles per hour. It's worth noting for later that I also drive a white Ford sedan. I was used to drunk idiot drivers in the middle of the night, so I pulled to the side of the road and let him pass me. I had a moment of clarity and thought to call the police, thinking this person could hurt themselves or somebody else. The dispatcher answered, and after telling them which road and exit mile mark I was at, told me they will send a car. The state police station was only a few exits away, so I figured they will send somebody and I will just drive home. As I headed back onto the highway, I noticed some lights a few miles behind me. I live more in a rural part of southern eastern PA, and traffic at 3 a.m. tends to be truckers and cops. The car gained on me as I was getting up to speed, so I stayed in the right lane and waited to be passed. Instead, they flipped on their high beams, making it uncomfortable to drive and roll my tailgate. At this point, I thought I was going to be pulled over by the police. I drove a white Ford sedan, and I had just called about a different white Ford sedan. So I grabbed my registration from my glove box. Suddenly, the car behind me audibly slammed on the brakes and stopped in the middle of the highway. They must have shut off their car because the lights went out, and I saw what it looked like the same Ford sedan from earlier. Still, I thought this may have been a police car, and it could have looked like I had reached for a gun in my glove box or something. I panicked and called 911 for the second time and asked the dispatcher if they sent a cruiser to investigate. The dispatcher was a little curt with me and assured me that they sent somebody out. The dispatcher said, "We have sent a trooper out to find a car, sir." And I said, "I only asked because somebody is following me and acting weird. It could have been a cop, and I think I freaked them out by getting my registration." The dispatcher said, "Are you pulled over?" And I said, "No, they didn't turn on their lights." Dispatcher, "Let me try to get a trooper we sent out." And as she was talking, the car again sped towards me, and stopped inches away from my bumper. Again, their high beams were on, and again they slammed their brakes. I told the dispatcher, I'm pretty sure this is not the police behind me. The car sped to my bumper again and turned their high beams on, this time laying on the horn. Hearing this, the dispatcher asked me what was happening. The dispatcher said, "What's happening? Did you honk?" And I said, "That's a car behind me. I don't think it's a cop." The dispatcher said, "I'll try to get the troopers again, but I don't think that's him behind you." For some reason, this is what shook me. Before that, I was thinking I would get pulled over and maybe get a ticket. Up until then, I was going to the speed limit and trying to avoid getting pulled over. I told the dispatcher, I don't care if I get pulled over. I'm speeding, and if they put their lights on then, I'll pull over. I started to accelerate, and the person behind me just kept up with me. The speed limit was 55, and they kept on my bumper the entire time, but this time, they were swerving. I tried to signal for an exit, then bail on it, but they followed. At the next exit, I took the ramp off and continued onto the on-ramp, and the car behind me followed the whole time. I thought about trying to go to Wawa. It's a convenience store and gas station that's pretty much the only populated place in southern eastern PA at 3 a.m. But the dispatcher and I thought that would be unsafe. She was calm and talking to another person trying to send police to me. The other person, maybe a supervisor, asked if I could drive to the state police station, realizing that I was only one exit away. I told her I was coming there. She said she would have troopers meet me outside. As I pulled off to the exit, the car followed me. I blew a few red lights, trying to get to the police station, and the car tried to pull into the other lane, to pass me or pull up alongside me. Once the police station was in view, I put on my turn signal and the car slammed on its brakes again, turned off their lights, and turned into a parking lot. The story ends kinda anticlimactically, as I pulled into the police station and met the troopers. Two of them went to find the car, and I stayed with the third trooper. I thanked the dispatcher and her supervisor, and the state trooper escorted me home, after taking a statement from me. I was never called to follow up or testify, so I could only assume the person didn't get caught. This happened a few months ago. I finally bought a car for myself. I love driving around and listening to music, alone or with my siblings. This very night, it was around 7 p.m. winter time. I took two of my siblings out for a drive after their consistent pleading because they were bored. Now, I'm a smoker, and coming from a South Asian household, women are meant to smoke. So I took these opportunities to smoke without worrying that my parents will catch me. The city I live in has a good side and a bad side. I lived in the very good side, or so I thought, a quiet, suburban area. So I didn't hesitate to park somewhere, get out and smoke while leaning against my car, and scroll away on my phone. And I parked underneath a lamppost, and got out and lit my cig, and all was well. It was dark, but I wasn't scared as I visited that road regularly, and it wasn't too far from my aunt's house. As I lit my cig, I look up from my phone to look around and see a man walking out from the shadows of a bush. I didn't think anything of it. I see people going for walks all the time around here. He was tall, standing at least 6'4". He was on the opposite sidewalks. I assumed he was going to carry on walking, so I carry on checking my phone, until I look up and see him just standing there, fully facing me and watching me. My sister in the car must have been watching him, too, and knocked on the window, telling me to come in. I had already butted out my cigarette and was making my way to the car door, keys in hand. The guy was still standing there, completely still. I got in anyways and locked my door, then breathed a sigh of relief, thinking maybe I was just overreacting. Put my car in ignition, and as I did so, I turned to see where the guy was, and he's right behind my car, taking pictures of my car and my registration number. I rolled my window down the teeniest bit. I could see his face a little clearer now. It was the Indian man with the beard and a hoodie over his head, shadowing some features on his face. I asked as politely as I could, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" This guy came towards my window but stood a bit of a gap away, in the most aggressive tone. "Do you know who I am?" "No." I didn't know whether it was a rhetorical question or not. I have a lot of shit going on in my house. I don't need you parking here watching me. You look real suspicious. There's rarely parking here with your two friends. Get the fuck out of here. What the fuck do you think you're doing? I chuckled nervously, trying to keep calm, but my anxiety was already halfway through the roof at this point. I didn't understand how I looked in any way threatening, as I'm a small girl who's been told I look like a kid. I was in my pajamas, and I was clearly minding my own business. "Look, I was just parking here to smoke. I come here all the time, since I live close by." He got up right to my window, slid his fingers through the gap and forced my window all the way down, screaming at the top of his lungs for me to get the fuck out of here. I screamed in terror and told him to stop swearing as I had a minor in the car, and he was scaring them. I don't know why. I knew he wouldn't exactly give a damn. He screamed, going red. "If you don't get the fuck out of here right now, I'll damage you in the fucking car." My adrenaline was running full speed and I was so terrified. I didn't even bother putting my seatbelt on. I jolted out of there. In my panic, I went straight ahead at a junction, leading me to a dead end, but I took the opportunity to just calm down. My whole body was shaking with adrenaline. I couldn't even keep my foot on the clutch. My sister was so quick to ask me if I was okay. But before I could even answer, I see a pair of headlights zooming towards me. It was the guy going at least 50 miles an hour on a 20 road. This guy almost crashed right into my car, but by some lucky miracle, he hadn't. He jumped out of the car, and this was when I realized my window was still all the way down. From when he forced it down, I wanted to cry. I quickly went to shut my window, but the guy was too quick. He threw half his body into my car. Through my window, I screamed so loudly with his ear right next to my face. I'm sure I deafened him. He was trying to steal my car keys from my ignition. I think my lucky stars that with my car, to unleash the car key, I had to put my foot on the clutch, which I didn't. With one hand, I was pressing down on the horn of my car to make as much noise as possible to alert the people in their houses in the others. I scratched his hands away from my car keys. My poor siblings were in the car, crying their eyes out. My little brother had no idea what he could do to protect me, and my sister was in the passenger seat, experiencing all in front of her eyes. I hurt the guy enough for him to get out of my damn car. "Now I fucking thought I told you to get the fuck out of here. I'll fucking kill you, bitch." This guy attempted to pull on my door handle, trying to open and get in, and I noped the fuck out of here. I didn't care that my body was shaking like a fish out of water. My main priority was the safety of my siblings and myself. I knew we were making a loud commotion. I held on to the horn of my car trying to get attention from the other houses, but nobody got out to help me. This was at 7 p.m. I was certain people indoors could hear us screaming, yet no one helped. I managed to wriggle my way out of the dead end and went to a new street, a totally different area, and I parked. I knew this was probably not a good idea, but I knew the guy wasn't following me. I just released my emotions, and me and my sister, my little brother were just sat in my car, sobbing away. This was the first time anything like this has ever happened to any of us. I rang the police and immediately wanted to punch myself in the face when the dispatcher asked if I got his registration number. Of course, my panic, I didn't. I wanted to slap myself in the face because I listened to these horror stories on YouTube all the time, and I always felt they taught me how to handle certain situations. I couldn't even get a bloody registration number. The dispatcher was amazingly empathetic, as was the female officer who called me the next day. As a woman, She understood how scary that must have been for me, and again I cried to her. Unfortunately, the cops informed me that there are no CCTV cameras where it happened, so they couldn't really do much, especially with me not knowing where he came from or his registration number. The female officer apologized to me, but it was my fault really for not mentally noting important information. They made a report of my attack, so if any similar incidents happen in their area, they can connect them. The officer said I most likely parked there as he was doing something illegal and freaked out on me. I think it was just a freak who enjoys scaring people who look like easy prey. So to the creepy fuck who tried to steal my car keys and attack me in front of young kids, let's never meet again.